to be able to increase the overnight rate for banks lending. You can't control any of that.
Nope.
But what you can do is you can bring an umbrella. You can sit there and say, okay, here's what's going on. Now, where's the opportunity?
So you want to be a real estate investor, but where do you start? How do you know what information and sources to trust? That's where I come in. I'm Jonny Cattani, and this is the Investor Relations Real Estate Podcast. Hey guys, real quick, before we start, go to investwithcattani.com and download my free ebook, Is Commercial Real Estate Recession Proof? Now to today's show. What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Investor Relations Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Jonny Cattani, and I'm joined today by Dan Rochon. Dan is the head coach and visionary at Greetings Virginia Sales Network. He's also the author of Real Estate Evolution, the 10-step guide to CPI for real estate agents, and the host of the CPI Community Podcast. Having seen hundreds of agents fail in the business, Dan is passionate about helping people not only stay in the business, but thrive in it. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today.
Grateful to have you. Looking forward to the conversation today. We had a great offline conversation and talked about how I mentioned that a lot of my listeners are new to real estate and will typically reference residential real estate and kind of the stats there. And, you know, that's kind of what the mainstream media is talking about, right? When they're referring to real estate is typically the residential side. So it's always nice to get that perspective and know, because there are similarities to the commercial side. So before we get into all of that, though, kind of take us back, you know, Reader's Digest version. What caught your attention about real estate and kind of led you to where you're at?
Okay. I got my license in 2007, and which is an interesting time to get my license because it's you know, you're hearing doom and gloom in the market today or in the media today. And, you know, when I started, you heard the same type of thing. You heard that doom and gloom. At the time, I was waiting tables at one of the highest end steakhouses in the world. And I hated my job. I made a lot of money, but I freaking hated my job. And, you know, I wanted to be able to become a business owner. I wanted to be able to be an entrepreneur to help people achieve their goals, to solve their problems. I just didn't know how. One day we're getting ready for a shift in, you know, we're Eagle Island scooping butters into the ramekins. And my buddy Billy says, "Hey, have you ever considered real estate sales?" I hadn't. And that was the introduction to real estate sales was scooping butters into ramekins.
Hey, listen, every great story needs a genesis, right? I love it,
man. I gotta tell you, I hated my job, man. I freaking hated it. I really did. You know, I got into real estate sales. My first 6 months, it was tough, and I had you know, a grand total of 0 closings. And, you know, April 2008, I had my first closing, and I had really figured out I discovered my way of how to do this. And April 2009, I had so much success during that, you know, 12-month period that 18 months after getting my license, I was able to, you know, to buy the brokerage that I worked for. And so I was really proud of that. Owned that for 10 years, sold it in 2018, wrote a book, Real Estate Evolution, that you mentioned, which is really... Amazingly, it was a big success. I mean, not amazing. Like, I didn't, you know, it doesn't surprise me it was a big success, but I'm grateful for it. And it really has become a guide and a blueprint for agents on how to make sales and how to have no broke months. So that's a little bit about, you know, my journey.
I love it. That's incredible. I love that you sort of found that methodology and then turn around. And I love when people turn around and turn it into coaching, right? And help people. And that's why I love this industry, because it really is an abundance mindset here. It's like, cool, I've done it. Now let me show other people how to do it. Yeah. One thing that caught my attention, though, when we were talking offline, is you started and have only been a listing agent, at least when I was in residential, brief stint that wasn't very common. A lot of times you just took, especially as a young person, just took what you could get. Most of the time it was a buyer, you know, and of course, helping listing agents with open houses and different things like that. So kind of talk us through, you know, what you recognize, how you were able to get right into the seller side and maintain that?
Well, I would say for me, focusing on the sellers has allowed for me to be able to, one of the things that I'm most proud of. So I shared a couple of things that I've done in real estate sales, but one of the things I'm most proud of is having no broke months as an agent since 2008, with an average of 10 sales a month. And the way that I've done that has been primarily focusing on sellers. And in fact, I've personally have only really ever helped 2 or 3 buyers in my career. And, but I've always had buyer's agents who I've worked with, right? So taking the time to really, I guess what you focus on expands. And so I've only ever focused on sellers. I do so because I know that today as a real estate agent, I probably work maybe 20 hours, if that, in the business a week, because I work more than that, but a lot of my time's coaching other agents. And so I'm able to maintain to take, last 12 months, I've taken 79 listings, and I've been able to do that by, just focusing on activities of just, lead generating for sellers and sellers only.
That's awesome. I love that. And for those that may not know, typically being on the listing side is just a higher percentage, right? You potentially have, it's still 6%, right? Potentially up to 6% that you could get.
Whatever. It's similar. I mean, whatever the percentage is, it's pretty typically actually like 50-50 of what the compensation is. But the value of being on the listing side is the fact that I have much more control over my time.
Yes.
When you're working with a buyer, you're looking at, hours and hours and hours, showing homes, and maybe it goes to closing and maybe it doesn't. For a listing, the value is when they hire me, odds are we're going to get to the closing line. That doesn't mean it's 100%. It's not, right? But it's much more frequent that they're going to get to the finish line than when a buyer hires me, which is, oftentimes they may end up, not buying. They may end up renting. They may end up staying wherever they're at, whatever the case may be. It's much more highly probable that, when you're working with sellers, that's going to go to the finish line.
Yep. Awesome. Love that. That was perfect insight there. So let's kind of switch here. Now you're coaching, right? We've obviously mentioned that. You've got your, 3 secrets to no broke months. Kind of touch on some of those and what you've been able to uncover in order to, that's a very challenging thing to do in that world. So kind of touch on that.
Well, if you're in any business, if you're an investor, if you're in commercial real estate, if you're in residential real estate, or any other industry for that matter, what I'm going to share with you right now will allow for you to have consistency. My coaching company called CPI Coaching, it's CPI Community, Consistent Predictable Income. And we get this by following 3 very, distinct steps. So step number 1 is to discover, why is it that you do what you're doing? And when I say that, I'm not talking like from this big why, from this altruistic, I'm going to save the world. I'm talking about from the point of like, I don't want to go drive a freaking Uber. Or when I started, I do not want to go and wait another table the rest of my life. Right? I will not go back and wait tables. Okay. But whatever it is that's like, that means something to you. It could be, I want to prove my ex-husband that I was going to say a word that I probably shouldn't have said. I almost actually said that, right? It was like going to be a really bad word, but I'm going to refrain. He's a jerk. He's a poo-poo head. Right? Whatever it is, why you're doing what you're doing in business, then, I would say, ask yourself the question, why do I do what I do? And write that answer down. And then ask yourself another question about the answer that you just wrote down. What's important to you about that? So I sell real estate. That's my profession. I sell real estate for me, it's to be able to afford to pay for my daughter's private school, which means like, what's important to me about that. But before I share with you what's important to me about that for myself, ask yourself what's important to me about that. And then ask yourself a follow-up question, what's important to me about that, and continue diving deep into what's important to me about that until you get to an answer that sinks to your heart. When you get that answer, you're going to freaking know it. You're going to be like, boom, there it is. That's it. That's why I do this. And when you discover that, then I'm going to ask for you to take everything of what's important to me about that, what's important to me about that, what's important to me about that, and swipe right. So that what you're left with is, why do I do what I do? Whatever your profession is. Why am I an investor? Why am I an agent? Why do I do commercial properties? Whatever the case may be. So why do I do this? And then what's important to me about that, which is the last what's important to me about that, which is the one that's saying to your heart. And you put those two together. Then you write that on a little sticky note, and you put that sticky note on your keyboard. Mine says, I sell real estate so that I can afford to pay for my daughter's private school, which means that I'm a worthy dad. For me, being a worthy father, boom, that sings to my heart. So now I've got that compass. So now that you have your compass, now you have to then, so that's step one. Step number two is understand what to do. Okay, so now that you understand what to do, and I'll tell you what that here in a second, if you choose to do something that's outside of your dollar productive actions, then you could just simply look at your compass. That's the little yellow sticky note you put on your keyboard of why do you do what you do and what's important to you about that. And then you make a choice. And you could choose to do something outside of that, or you could choose to do, to say, no, I'm going to do my money making activities. So there's 5 money making activities. We call these CPI times. And CPI time. And this is relevant for anybody's business, by the way. So step number 1 in CPI time is to lead generate. Go find business. Go find another deal. Go find a distressed property. Go find an investment opportunity. Step number 2 is to convert the prospect to meet with you. So let's say you're investing in residential distressed property, and you go and you find a piece of property, and then you got to then get them to meet with you. So number 1 is to lead generate. Number 2 is to convert the leads to meet with you. Number 3 is to meet with them for the intention to get hired, or the intention to take an action, a sale, or whatever the case may be. So it's convert to lead generate, convert the leads to meet with you, meet with them for the purpose of a sale. And then number 4 is to negotiate. And number 5 is to practice your scripts and role play. So that's to practice your craft, to know what to say, to know how to say it, and when to say it. So those are the 5 things that make you money in any business. So now you have on your sticky note, you've got the sticky note that says why you say this, why you sell why you do whatever it is that you do, and what's important to you about that. And then now you've got your job description, which is CPI time. Now choose. And whatever choice you make is completely cool. This morning I was building sales funnels. Well, guess what? That's not in my CPI time. But I was aware that it wasn't in my CPI time when I was doing so. I prepared for this conversation, and I allocated 2 hours later in the day for me to go and contact prospective clients, because that is in my dollar productive activity. It's just my day got a little wrapped around today, but I was aware of the fact that I was making a choice. And then I made a decision to say, okay, well, I'll still do the activity that's going to generate a result. And I allocated my time for that.
That's incredible. I love that. I actually wrote a lot of that down because it's true. That is very universal amongst any business. The one thing is that I've noticed, right? So this is my first full year in business on my own, is that step 1 is really where you're make or break, right? Is where you're out, how hard you're going to work to get that. And, it doesn't necessarily you have to be the hardest worker there. What are some ways to be really efficient in step 1 so that you're not burning yourself out just in step 1, trying to find leads in business?
Well, you're actually talking about step 2, which is to find the lead. So, okay, I got you. So let me break it down. Step 1 is to discover your why. Step 2 is to stay within your CPI time. Step 3 is to discover your way. Okay. So the answer to step 3 is going to answer your question, which is the first step in the CPI time, which is to lead generate. Okay. So I have to come with a better vernacular to communicate that. That's on me. So how do you find your best way to lead generate so that you don't burn yourself out? And it doesn't necessarily have to be working harder. Discover your way. To discover your way, I'm going to ask for you, for the viewers and listeners, to take out 2 pieces of paper. And I want you, after you listen to this show today, to take some time later tonight or tomorrow morning early. And I want you to sit down and maybe even put on some ambiance music, whatever you do, whatever you dig. For me, it's like, study jazz, and sit down and say, what am I skilled at doing? What does my boyfriend, my girlfriend, my spouse, my mom, my dad, my son, my daughter, my best friend, what do they say I'm really, really good at doing? What do I say I'm really, really good at doing? And I'm not talking professionally, though it could be professionally. Okay. It could be, I'm really good at throwing parties. That's fine. Whatever it is that your superpower, I want you to take some time and write down every single one of your strengths that you can think of. And spend some time with this, spend 30, 45 minutes at least. And then you're going to have a sheet of paper with all your superpowers, all your strengths, and then put that aside. And a separate time, do the same thing, get the same jam going on, the same music. And now I want you to write down what's every single way I could find business. What's every single possible way I could do drive-bys looking for distressed properties. I could contact apartment owners. I could mail to them. I could get bird dogs to go and look for distressed properties. There's all kinds of different ways that you can find business. Just relate that to whatever your business is. So you're on your second session now. You're sitting down. You get the music jam, and you're answering the question: what's every single freaking possible way? Radio advertisement. It doesn't matter if I can do it or not. What can be done to find business? Write that down. Now, third session. Sit down on a third day, and you get the music out, and you take a look at sheet 1 and sheet 2, and now you just simply pair. And you say, what's my superpower? My superpower is X. Here's my top 3 talents. Boom. Of those superpowers, those top 3 talents, which of those superpowers best match with the way that you could find business? Circle that 1 to 3. That's your job right there. Boom. Now go do it.
Wow.
But go do it on steroids.
Yes. And in the beginning, that's where you have your like coaching, the people you coach. Yeah. Is that where you're focusing most of your energy?
Initially,
Yeah.
we have to discover their way, right? So,
right.
Until we discover their way. See, the gurus are wrong. The gurus will go out and they'll say, do this, do that. There's the way to do it. You mail to 5,000 people. You mail to them 27 times, and you'll get this many opportunities. Well, those are true metrics, but that doesn't mean that that's the way that you should be doing it, unless if it's the way you should be doing it.
Right.
It's a way you could do it that will be successful. But if it's something that you don't resonate with, freaking leave it alone.
Yep.
Go find what you love to do, which is why we take the first day and we find what everyone, what your superpowers are. What do you have fun doing? What are you skilled at doing? What do you like doing? Figure that out. Then what are the ways I could do this? And now go do that. And again, do that on steroids. Gosh,
I love that so much, because so often, you hear people getting into this industry, and this industry, especially, you can get a serious case of shiny object syndrome, because there are so many ways to skin the cat. You can be an agent, you can be a commercial broker, you can be a fix and flip wholesale, you can trade land notes. I mean, you don't even need to own property. There are so many things. And when you talk to people who are successful in those, they make it sound so easy. And so I really like this method of, no, find the one that fits your superpowers, and then go focus your time on that way and get good at that. And then you can try other things if you want.
Yeah. Today I've got 9 sources of business in my business, and I put them into 3 buckets of 3. Initially, it was only 3. In fact, initially it was only 1, but then we developed it into 3, right? So don't go past 3 until you really have that sort of rolling, until you really have that, working for your, working for it. And then once that's working, then you consider adding onto it. But before you add onto it, you want to sit there and say, what can I leverage? Where can I get a person or a system to do most of this for me? And once you can leverage it off, then it's on autopilot, then you can build.
Absolutely. Especially if you can find three things that are symbiotic, right? So for me, I have the podcast, and then, my primary focus is raising capital on a passive side, but I'm also working on a couple things in terms of being a co-GP and being on the active side too, right? So all kind of together, but still like very different,
It's synergistic. They feed
Correct.
each other.
Yep.
They feed each other, and one's connected with the other, and now you've got a business.
Exactly. I love it. That's awesome. Well, one thing I want to touch on as we kind of get towards the end here, this has been incredible. I always love hearing different methods. And like I said, I wrote stuff down. So let's kind of get into some of the economic stuff here, and we'll touch on kind of some of the numbers. Obviously things are changing, right? The big elephant in the room, everyone knows interest rates are going up. That's easy to tell. What are you seeing? You're on the listing side, which I love. So from what I'm reading, you're on the front lines, is that listings are staying on the market longer. Prices starting to come down a little bit, 10, 20, I've heard even 30% in some markets. What are you kind of seeing in the broad market here, kind of macro?
It depends on your market, right? So so for my market, I'm in one of the best markets in the entire planet, the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, where
Really?
we've got, well, good. Look at our economy. Our economy is the United States government. It's number one. Number two is technology.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah, you're good. That's fair. Yeah, that's very valid. Yeah.
Because if either one of those two things go out of business, we're all screwed.
Yeah, you never hear about that area on any kind of Well, actually, no, they're always on the good. I feel like they're always like number 12 to 8 on any list of like most growing, best economic kind of.
It's priced out, and there's not a lot of development opportunity because everything's been developed and it's at high prices typically. Now, what am I seeing? Let's actually look at what's going on in the marketplace. So from a real estate agent's perspective, I'm not too concerned about what's going on because my competitors are. And so what I mean by that is, let's say that the biggest impact that we're seeing in the real estate market right now is less transactions. Okay, so we're seeing around 20% less transactions. We're seeing plateaus in pricing, and like what you said, some markets are maybe dipping a bit, but for the most part, at least in my market and other metropolitan areas, you're seeing a plateau and maybe a small dip. Okay, so what you're seeing is 20% less activity, plateau, small dip, and then what we're predicting is we're going to predict that way more than 20% of real estate agents will quit. Okay, because they're listening to the media and they're saying, okay, well, hey, the sky is falling, so I'm going to go and drive an Uber. All right, cool. Thank you very much.
Yep.
So if and when 30% of my competitors leave the market and there's 20% less activity, there's actually
that's a net positive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so it's just really, how are you looking at it, and are you understanding this is an opportunity? This is an opportunity for me. It's an opportunity for everyone who's listening to this right now. You just got to figure out, where's my opportunity. Money is made. Wealth is made in downtimes.
Say it louder for the people in the back, please.
I don't wish bad times, but I knew in 2008 and 2009, and the last time where I made some good moves during that time period as well. But the number one lesson that I learned then was get ready for the next suck.
1,000%.
And now it's not to sit there and say, like, I wish this upon the world economy, but it is a circumstance. And now we can choose on what we're going to do with that circumstance.
Yep.
We could crawl underneath our tables and cry, or it's literally raining outside. I'm looking at the rain outside my window here. If I was to go outside right now, guess what I would bring with me?
An umbrella.
That's right.
Yep.
Because it's raining outside, I can't do anything about that.
Correct.
What I can do is I can prepare myself for the weather. You can't do anything about the fact that interest rates have risen. You can't do anything about the fact that inflation has gone out of whack. You can't do anything about the fact that the Fed last week, and depends when you're watching or listening to this, boosted another 0.75 points or basis to be able to increase the overnight rate for banks lending. You can't control any of that.
Nope.
But what you can do is you can bring an umbrella. You can sit there and say,
1000%.
okay, here's what's going on. Now, where's the opportunity?
Absolutely. And I have been saying this for the last few months, honestly, because you hear this, especially if you're paying attention to mainstream news, which I harp on this show not to pay attention to that. Take it with a grain of salt, a giant shaker of salt, if you're still into those news outlets.
No salt. Stop it. You're programming yourself a bunch of negativity.
I know, but what I'll say is you'd think that the world was coming to an end, and maybe it will. Who knows? Honestly, do us all a favor. You know what I mean? But I'm just kidding. But there's going to be so many opportunities. Now, I don't think it will be as heavy of a blanket as '08 was. I think that you're going to have to be paying attention. And this is what I tell people is get into whatever market, whatever asset, whatever niche, get into it now, start learning it now so that when opportunities present themselves, that's an opportunity. If you're not paying attention to the market or, you're sitting on the sideline and waiting, but you're not keeping up with prices and market fluctuations and the different things that are happening, you're not going to recognize an opportunity if it kicked you in the head. Right. So, you need to be paying attention now. So, those opportunities are there. And then when you see it, pull the trigger,
Absolutely. But you got to prepare yourself. You have to have that umbrella in the trunk of your car ready for the rain. And right now is the time to do so. Right now is the time to prepare yourself. And then you have to have an awareness. And as you have that awareness, you'll see the opportunity. And when the opportunity arises, you'll be ready to take action.
Absolutely. Give us kind of your muddy crystal ball prediction for 2023, what you think it's going to look like economically.
Economically, I think you're going to have a plateau in the real estate market. There's going to be a rebound at some point, right? It's just, when is it going to be? I don't know. And to be candid with you, not putting a lot of time or effort into it. I really am not. What I'm putting my time and effort into is the activity to be able to succeed in my industry.
Yep.
And I'm so freaking grateful because I'm figuring out ways to succeed right now and actually increase my business. And in doing so in a tougher market, which means even if it gets even tougher, I'll still be able to succeed, which means at some point it will become easier again. And when it becomes easier again, holy goodness, that's when you take off. So lean into the tough, because when you lean into it and when it lets off and it becomes easier again, that's when you thrive. And that would be anything real estate related, business related, investment related, whatever the case may be.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. I love that. It's kind of like not necessarily a tunnel vision, because you obviously want to be paying attention to what's going on, but you're so focused on what you're doing that the other stuff is just noise.
I don't pay. No. Yeah. If I'm aware of it because I want to prepare myself.
Of course.
Okay. I want to be aware of it to find opportunity. But I'm not, it's the same way as literally, it's raining outside right now. I'm aware it's raining, but if I was to use it as an example, I probably would not have really recognized it as raining. I'm aware of it. If you ask me, it's in my peripheral, it's there, it's in my vision, but I'm not letting it inhibit me from doing the activity that I need to do.
Absolutely. I love that. Well, this has been incredible. We'll go ahead and wind down here. Really appreciated all of your insight, Dan. We'll wind down here to the final five. First question, best advice you've gotten from a mentor?
Find a niche. The best advice I got from a mentor was in 2008-ish, was to at that time was to embrace short sales. And I found my one way. That was back when I said find one way. That was my first way, and I was able to create a lot of success from that. So find your way and dive into it.
I love it. That's awesome. What is about your career that makes you feel like you're fulfilling your why?
When I was in the Army, we used to play the game of Risk. You ever heard of the game of Risk?
Of course, yes. Love Risk.
It's a military game. A bunch of Army guys playing.
Absolutely.
And we were the geeky military guys. And I loved playing the game because I love the strategy of winning. Same way as I love playing chess and cribbage and games that take a lot of strategy. So what I love about doing what I do is that I get to figure out problems. I get to solve problems I get to be able to help people achieve what they want to achieve in their lives. And that gives me drive and that gives me spirit. Just like when we play that game of Risk, I love the strategy of it to win.
Love that. Absolutely love that. I couldn't agree more. Big fan of problem solving and kind of, like Grant Cardone says, if you're having new problems, if you're creating new problems, that means you're on the right
Good
track.
Lord, I'm on the right track then.
Yep. That's what he says, right? Your problems should get bigger and should be different, as you kind of move. Cool. Favorite non-real estate or investment related book?
Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon
Nice.
Hill.
Gosh, tried and true. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
To be able to eat unlimited candy bars without getting fat.
Yeah, that would be nice. What's your go-to candy bar?
Snickers. Snickers is my most favorite candy bar.
I love it. That's awesome. Cool. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you and learn more?
www.nobrokemonths.com.
Sweet. We'll link down in the show notes, make it super easy. Dan, thank you so much for your time and your insight and sharing some of your secrets with us. Very, very grateful.
My pleasure.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching today's episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. Listen, I know it's cliche and you hear it all the time, but please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you know when the next video is coming out. Even though this is technically a daily podcast, it's coming out the next day. We have a ton of content coming your way. So please like and subscribe. It helps a ton. Leave comments. Would love to know what you guys think. And we will see you on the next one. Thanks so much.